No, no, you can tell me.
Okay, so what happened is I believe the manor is called Brookhaven where they live. Now it was developed by an evil guy who was pretty much more powerful than Ingrid and a few of the witches. So he was like a cult leader, and he did stuff like tried to give an old woman back her youth, and then maybe about an hour later she died. And he was that sort of thing. And pretty much the way they try to make it seem, it was he was marrying Ingrid to eventually steal her powers.
Oh, okay.
And what happened is, knowing this evil, Ingrid was going to elope with him, and they went back to a shop that her Aunt Wendy and her mother had owned, and they're pretty much they were healers, but they didn't tell people it was magic, so they kind of used their magic for a good aspect. And Wendy had known about Ingrid and Archibald. The guy's name was Archibald. Knew about Archibald and Ingrid for a while, and pretty much told her, it's like, no, this guy's evil. You can't marry this guy. No, this is gonna be nothing but danger and bad for us. And they showed up. Ingrid, Archibald, and Archibald's daughter Athena showed up at the shop, and Archibald had Wendy up against the wall with some sort of thing holding her up there, and Wendy pretty much pulled up, we'll call it a power ball, to kill Archibald, and Ingrid jumped in front of her, pretty much took the hit, and fell about 5 stories down, and she died in that instance, and that's why the dress is cursed.
Oh,
Now
okay, that makes sense.
here's where it gets a lot more interesting, is in old pictures, because if you remember, I think it was not this episode, but the last episode. Again, it was at the fiance's house, and the mother said, "Well, look at this picture. This looks a lot like you." And Ingrid looks at it, she's like, "No, they can't. It's not me. It looks like me, but it's not me." And seeing that, she went to dive to her past, because there's a little girl she's there with, and the girl is Athena, who's Archibald's daughter. Now, the way that all ties in, it's a pretty good hunch, but I have a pretty good hunch that even though the mother said she lost touch with Athena in the 60s, that the mother is Athena.
Oh,
Because
nice twist.
she knew about the picture, she knew about the dress, so she's not just going to bring this up out of nowhere. So they haven't said that for sure yet, but it makes sense, because if technically speaking, Athena is supposed to be part of the Greek gods, that means that she was immortal and never really passed away. She may have grown older, but never really passed away. So there's a good twist right there. Like they said, they haven't said it for sure, but I'm almost 100% positive that the mother is Athena.
I think that you've got something there.
So it's something you want to catch up and have a look at. So that was fairly interesting for me. That was a really good one too. And it's one of those things. The more you watch it, all the little details are starting to pop out at you, and they're giving you a lot more, which is good, because if they want to keep the show going, they're going to have to keep it interesting and do different things instead of kind of doing the same old drab, boring stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I was really impressed with what I've seen of it so far, and it's nice that they're letting some of the mystery sleep out slowly, because I've been watching Vampire Diaries this season. We talked a little bit last week about how frustrating the show is, but literally this week they jammed a whole season worth of canon into this episode, and they're just telling you too much too quickly, and I can't really absorb anything. And then, of course, they change the rules again, so that's not really how it works. So it's nice that they're taking witches is taking their time to build up their mythos instead of just shoving it all on you at once.
Well, that's right, because it's exactly like essentially like the past two Superman movies, because they try to cram too much into one movie. Whereas the original was a 3-parter. I would probably be a lot more smart if they went that direction. But we're not going to talk too much about that. I just wanted to use that as comparisons for those of you who have seen Man of Steel and those Superman movie made before that. They weren't bad, but they were lacking quite a few things. They're just too much too quickly. Too much of a jump from youth to full-grown man, and then there's Lois. So any of you have seen the actual original movies, or have even seen Smallville? No, it doesn't pan out like that. So.
Yes, I love Smallville, and Man of Steel did come out on DVD this week, I think, and I wrote a review for it, and I felt very similar to you. But I did enjoy the last movie, just quickly, that they did, instead of staying so much on the origin story, they told it in a different way so that we could make a little more story progress than in the last few movies.
Well, exactly. I didn't dislike it, but I just thought it was just a little too much, and it lacked a lot too. So, it's just one of those things. If you're a diehard Superman fan, you're gonna want to see the movie, but it's got to be done in a certain way. At least and making a sequel would actually make sense, because most movies now are making sequels, and for the most part, they're doing a good job and they're doing fairly well. So it'll be smart on their part to maybe try one more time, but do little by little. And if you gotta do threes, different movies about it, then so be it. If it turns out much more, a lot better than it has been, then by all means, be a lot more enjoyable to watch.
I definitely agree.
So, before we get on the next topic, it seems like you told me about an interesting day you had the other day. Why don't you tell us about that?
Okay, so my town where I live was in a buzz because Justin Timberlake had came to town to perform for his concert, and everyone, there are many different rumors, and our local radio people, one girl in particular is very excited about them coming. I'm not the biggest Justin Timberlake fan, but had a near run-in many years ago that I just missed him after he was leaving a hotel. So I was downtown earlier and this week, and I was sitting having my eye exam, and I'm sitting on the office waiting for my eyes to dilate. So I'm wearing those goofy sunglass things that they give you. I look like Geordi from Star Trek. And so I'm sitting there talking to the lady, the eye doctor. All of a sudden I see this huge tour bus come down to the 5-star hotel, and I go up to the window and I see a black Escalade following it, and I think to myself, I know that's Justin Timberlake's tour bus, because I know that the talent typically, when you see it's one thing if you just see the tour bus, but when you see the black Escalade, that is serious. That is definitely the one. So I tell everyone in the office, I said, I think I just saw Justin Timberlake's tour bus roll through, and they're kind of like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. And I was like, no, you guys don't understand. There's a black Escalade, and everyone's like, yeah, we see tour buses kind of all the time. One lady that was talking, she seemed to believe me, but everyone else was just like, didn't really believe it. Well, the next morning on the radio, it was all over Twitter, and everyone in my area, they were all tweeting that, in fact, Justin Timberlake was staying at the hotel I said that he was staying at, and it was him. And one girl, if I stuck along longer, saw him at the Starbucks and had their picture with him.
Well, there you go. I mean, and it's one of those things, like, just don't ignore me. Just look out the window,
I know. I can't wait to come back down there, and I think I'm going to make a special trip and just say, yeah, I told y'all it was his tour bus.
But I agree with you. I am not a fan in the least bit, but I'm not going to go into that because that could take a while. But still, it's always fun to meet or just to see a star, no matter who they are, especially when they've got that much popularity, that sort of thing. I mean, it's always nice whether you like them or not, because there's some people I know I've seen haven't really been fans, but it was cool to see them anyways.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't. A lot of the people where I live do not get as excited as I wish that they would, and they're So someone last week saw Rob Lowe, and I was all excited that Rob Lowe was here, and everyone's kind of like, it was just Rob Lowe. But I was like, no, you understand?
Yeah.
This ain't Almost Fired.
So I would have loved to meet Rob Lowe. I mean, obviously he's done so much, and between he wasn't in Pretty in Pink, but he was in a St. Elmo's Fire, and obviously it's one of those kind of 80s kind of cult classics, because there's a whole string of them. And then, of course, he was in the Wayne's World movie, and I'm just talking about his little cameos here. And then again in Austin Powers when he played the young number 2, which was awesome. It was really funny. So Rob Lowe is just one of those guys. He's a good all-around character, and he's just really good. He always gets a lot of times typecast in that kind of the snide, kind of rude, arrogant guy, but he plays it so well, and it's always so funny.
It really is. He's a pop culture icon. I mean, I would definitely not sneeze at having his company for just a little bit.
Well, that's right, exactly. And sometimes, like, you never know who you're gonna run into. And there's one guy I'm thinking of, like, well, I'll come back to it when I think of his name. It's a comedian. Anyways, I'll think of it in a few minutes because again, it was I ran into him at the airport. Oh, now Jeff Proops. He was on he was on Whose Line Is It Anyways with Colin Mockery and what's the name? Guy from Drew Carey, Brian. His name's escaping me, but anyways, this was probably about 6-7 years ago, and I was outside, and he's standing around with a bunch of his buddies, and we were just kind of standing around talking to ourselves and just listening. And the guy is a riot. Like, I mean, it just so one story after another. Like, you don't even have to be part of the conversation to laugh at what he's saying.
Yeah, he is so funny. I love him. I watched Chelsea lately, and he's been on the round table that they do, and he came here. I think it was like last year to the local radio station, and he had everybody cracking up. He is so funny. Yeah,
I got a chance to talk to him for a few minutes outside. I pretty much said, "No, what? I think your stand-up's really good," and I saw you in News Lines anyways. And he just started cracking jokes, and you can't help but laugh. You know, just one of those guys. He's constantly on. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if he kind of let some of the showmanship fade a little bit if he's not on stage.
Oh no, he was fully invested in it. Like the first story we heard, because this is summertime and we're outside and we gone outside for a cigarette, and he was doing the same with his friends, and he was telling a story about a trip he had made recently and how much of a pain flying out of LAX was, and I was just dying laughing. And of course, once he knew we were listening, of course he was more elaborate than anything else, which was made it even funnier. And the way we got to talk to him, he's like, "Come on over." He goes, "Go listen to the story." He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And
yes, definitely.
It's one of those things. It's funny, but you still kind of feel awkward because these guys, other two buddies in there, you don't know them. They have no idea who you are, and you're just randomly laughing.
Yes, that is so awkward. You're trying to insert, you're trying to get it in there, and then it's just very awkward. But you would rather be a part of it than to let it pass.
Oh, there's no way I would have passed it up. That was well worth it. I mean, that made me laugh. I mean, that was awesome. I went inside and my mouth was hurting. I was laughing. I had been laughing so hard. So I pretty much got my own free comedy show. So
it's the best way to have one.
Exactly. But okay, we've kind of skewed up enough. Let's get back into it, Britt, and we'll talk about your blogs for the week. First off, you did an interview and you did a review of Nina Yasmin. Is that how you pronounce her name?
I believe so. Yes.
All right. So you did a review of her EP 7 years. So tell us a little bit about that. How how was she during the questions? How'd you like the EP?
I really liked the EP. It was very ethereal, and it had this Florence and the Machine kind of vibe, and she was wonderful with the questions. The EP really makes you think, and I had a lot of questions, and it's so nice when artists want to open up, because I understand that if you have written something and it has like a secret meaning to you, you kind of don't want to put that out. But she was very accommodating, and she explained the title of the album, 7 Years. I wanted to know why 7 years, and also there's this really great lyric in her song Names, which is it's escaping me right now, but I think it was something to the effect of, you want to have fun forever, I want a good name. And I was asking her what the meaning behind that was, and you can find the answer on my website. plug. And she was very accommodating, and I just really enjoy when an artist, you can tell she really had thought everything out, and so there's really a lot of meaning. I think you're understanding her through her music, and with a lot of people, sometimes that isn't the case, but it was very enlightening.
Well, it's good because and just when on the note when you're saying, well, they'd always divulge stuff of other songs, and you're right, and that's fine because pretty much it's open to interpretation for the most part. People all have their own take on it. And I discussed that a little bit yesterday on my interview with Scott from Faith and Violence, and we talked about that. And it's true because some artists are more than willing to talk about it, and some won't. And it's still fine just because it's one of those things. Like, it's nice when it's open to interpretation because you never know if you're way off course, or if you're on course, if they do tell you. So it's always interesting to see whether they're going to speak up or they're not.